A warm welcome to everyone for our PC Quest 35 years journey from 1987 to 2022. Today, we will be discussing how PCs have been used as a political tool. For that, we have with us Arvind Gupta, co-founder and head, Digital India Foundation. Welcome, Arvind.
Thank you for having me, Sunil.
Yeah. So I'll get straight to it, as the topic is clear, how PCs have been used as a political tool. Maybe you can just begin on, what effect PCs had on parties, campaigns, elections, what effect they had on governance, and what effect they had on communication with the citizen. Maybe we can take it from there.
Thank you, Sunil. And it's a privilege to talk to you on your 35th anniversary. As your name itself has suggested, right? PC Quest moved to, you also have Data Quest. I think your question really underlying is that how PCs as a proxy for technology has been used over the years. When PCs just stood for PC itself, but then then it of course became more data and digital, and overall the theme has been technology. And whether it's been used only in politics or overall in our democracy, in our governance, and that has changed over the years. Mid 80s, I think 87 is when you got founded, when the PC was just being introduced globally, not only in India, but globally being introduced. There was a lot of apprehension that this is the tool which is of course there for productivity, but it's going to cut jobs. In a country like India, where we've always had jobs as an issue, it became a very, very big political point whether computerization is going to help us do a jobless growth. But I think over the years, at least in a country like India, in a society like India, it's shown that technology has nothing but always given productivity enhancements, has added to jobs, has created a better society. And 35 years from 87 to today is a long time. In the mode cycle, probably we have completed about 18 mode cycles. 2 to the power 18 is trillions and trillions of cycles that we have gone through. So that's a very, very long cycle. Now, in the context of how it has evolved, you have to see that earlier, and I'll talk about 4 or 5 aspects of democracy, which is, which is, as I said, the large political economy, in the sense that what is elections? It's a circular thing, but I'll start with elections, pre-elections, which is parties and their own, communication mechanisms, elections and social media, the conduct of elections, the communication during elections, and lastly, then post-elections, then the governance, which is then the party who wins any elections comes into power and delivers on that. So, and that has 2 parts: delivery of service delivery using technology, and then communication again. So to deliver, keep a constant touch. And this is where I have worn various hats, and I can share with you my experiences. Now, see, if you take from the period of, let's say, 90s, just to simplify it, whereas the internet was really becoming internet as we know it today till about 2000 in the Silicon Valleys, India also had a little bit tryst with the internet in about 2000, the famous .coms that started. But really, we became an internet thought processor only after 2012-13, when we had substantial users. In 2014, when we conducted the general elections, India had, give or take, about 12 crore internet users. Today, in 2022, we have 80 crores. So that's like a 6.5 times, 7x, if you can broadly say it, jump in the last 8 years. So, and that's expected, as I said, from purely from a technology perspective, from a Moore's law perspective. That's how that growth is expected. So we've come a long way from the world, just adopting computers in the 90s and the internets, and really in the 2000s, India probably lagged in the adoption, and we skipped, I think, the PC revolution that happened globally. But we skipped and we came straight away to a smartphone revolution. And today India has, of the 80 crore users, there is 80 crore smartphones, plus or minus a little bit. So it's a pretty much, we are a smartphone country. And in that digital first, mobile first country, how we have evolved is something that I'll talk about. So as I said, the base of your question, the PC as a proxy for technology, data, has been there in the political process, really, starting with the political process and then the campaigns and the governance. Political process, it has been there, but in a very loose sense. Data was used a lot, so people used to use PCs to do a little bit of number crunching. It was not so pervasive beyond that. Parties and had websites, and some emails would go out for a little databases that had emails, and that it was kind of limited to that. When leaders launched their own website or blogs, that was considered frontline and mainline news. And when even the current prime minister came on the social media as we know it today in 2010 and 11 time frame, it was big time news because he was a leader in that. Nobody had started using in the 11-12 framework Facebook, Twitter, and he is one of the most prolific and most followed leaders today. But that was the early days, and people actually used to make comments that too much tweeting will lead to quitting. So there was a complete dichotomy, and I'm not saying that dichotomy is unfounded because people didn't experience the power of technology to its fullest. So political parties were using it, and diverse political parties in a diverse manner were using it, probably for their internal accounting processes a little bit, maintaining their own party workers databases. Come election time, would probably using it for doing voter analysis, some statistical analysis, and that was how it was limited till about, I would say, 2011-12. The elections process was really a process where the election commission was using not really PC, but the EVM, which is the electronic device, but really a unconnected electronic device in a standalone devices. And we've had this EVM since the early 2000s, and the EVMs have really revolutionized our election processes. But we have come a huge way, and that's why I want to shift to the post 2014 period, 2014 or 14 period, where everything shifted different gears. So till 2012-13, you can say in the election process, the party processes, computerization or use of very, very, very primitive. This is about till 12-13, and same thing. Elections were primarily driven by the EVM process. Still, a lot of the communication used to be more on a little bit on text messaging, but a lot more on newspaper advertising, TV, and outdoors, and that's what was was the backbone of both the electioneering process as well as the election process. And the third phase of governance. In governance, as you know, the Aadhaar project really started around 2010-11, and nobody actually could visualize what would be the impact of this new thing that we're doing, because India was such a at that time, again, a very diverse thing. Of the 1.2 billion people, maybe 300, 400 million people in India, which is 30 crores out of 120 crores, had some form of ID. And the rest, 80, 90 crores, had no form of ID. So there was not even a paper ID that was there with people, individuals. And this was a known study that of the 100 rupees that left the government coffers, only 15 reached the end user, because everything was lost in translation, in fakes and duplicate and ghosts. So our governance really didn't actually have any technology intervention. And that was where the highest amount of leakage and disservice to a democracy was happening, because there was umpteen leakage, there was wastage of government money, and at the end of it, the promise of democracy was not getting fulfilled because the service delivery was not happening very well. And all this changed, and rightly so, when the advent of the fourth industrial revolution. Really, in 2010 onwards, the fourth industrial revolution was becoming the concept globally. India was becoming 13-14 onwards, we were becoming an economy with the new political leadership. And this leadership had come into power. Prime Minister Modi had come into power with a lot of promise of technology, with the promise of digital India, with the promise of creating a new, using technology to empower, to make sure that service delivery, empowerment is delivered to the last mile. The highest usage in the world ever in the social media using social media for campaigning, which produced a distinctive advantage for the prime minister, was in the 2014 election, because it was such a big disruption. The use of data analytics was such a big disruption. The use of outreach based on technology, 3D and everything else, was the biggest thing that you could see as a pivotal moment, and everybody understood the benefits of using this thereon. So nobody talks about now that whether you need to use technology, including social media and others. Post 2014, it was established. And that is where I think our democracy really became digital. Along with it came a host of other problems. I mean, and we'll talk about it, post 2015-16, this whole problem of misinformation, fake news. And election commission also was really taking cognizance in the election process. Also, you could see that, they were becoming active on social media. They were understanding the impact of social media. The new guidelines had to be made for social media. So both the party processes and then the election process, as I said, started adopting technology. The parties, to a much larger extent, election commission got to understand the impact of it a little later during the elections, and that became an issue. I mean, whether people can tweet, not tweet, because there's a campaigning ban sometimes, right? But Twitter is always open. There is borderless internet, right? So how do you, what can you do and not do? What kind of things are allowed and not allowed? So those become very, very new things for the election commission, and I think they stepped up to the challenge and fixed it. But the real change happened 2014 in the governance, I think, when the team led by Prime Minister Modi really came about and set up a lot of things. 2014 itself, I was CEO of MyGov. 2014, MyGov was set up, which was a citizen to, government to citizen communication platform. This whole platformization of Aadhaar started. 2014 onwards, you had Aadhaar really becoming a massive tool for governance. And, basically it was a top-down policy decision that we need to adopt Aadhaar, and we need to make it not just a tool for identity, but a political tool, a political economy tool, which is embedded into all our systems, so that delivery of services can be really enhanced. And this is the whole DBT, direct benefits transfers, linking it with the JAM Trinity, the Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile Trinity, and then taking it forward from there in a way that it has never been done in a country like India. And ensuring that 100 rupees that leaves the government coffers reaches the 100 rupees. So all the ghosts, fakes, Sunil, you would be surprised. During the first 4 or 5 years of adoption of technology in the governance process, and I can go on and talk about it, is that we discovered about 6 to 7 crore fakes. People who didn't exist in India were taking government benefits. So that's how the amount of impact it has had on government. And so if you see the full circle, the pre-elections, the political process, the democratic process of elections and campaigning, and then the post-democratic process of governance, delivery of that. I think today this technology is so integrated in all these three things. So it's come a long way from the journey that started with disdain and jobs getting destroyed, when the computerization started, computer reservation started for railways or for Indian Airlines. At that time, I think there were protests, I remember, and we were young kids then. But today it's mainstream. Everybody understands it. Everybody gets their SMS and benefits on a phone, and they know how to transact using a phone, and it's really completely transformed. And today a vaccine certificate is available on a WhatsApp in a country like India. So we have really leapfrogged from that. Skipping the PC revolution per se, the desktop revolution, I must say. From we really had a few mainframes, and then we really skipped the desktop revolution, and we straight away came to a smartphone, the cloud, the SMAC revolution, which is social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. And that is what India has done over the last 10 years. So there is in my 35 years of your journey, I think I would split it into two parts. The first 25 years, which is still about 2012, and then suddenly 2012 to 22, which is the last 10 years, which has this proliferation of fourth industrial revolution tools, and the SMAC thing, the social media, mobile, analytics, and of course cloud. And this has become these are the new terminology in all these three processes, aided with India's new innovative approach of building digital public infrastructure. So Sunil, one thing we also have to recognize, India is the only country in the world which has built public digital infrastructure to be used by all the elements of the country, which is government, society, businesses, and startups. And this has completely revolutionized our, not only just the governance process. As I said, we've done some, 300, 400 billion dollars worth of direct benefits transfers over the so many years. But out of that 300 billion dollars, I think more than 25 billion dollars has been saved in identifying those ghosts and misplaced beneficiaries. So I think what we have achieved at the end, and the scale. I mean, when we had the pandemic hit us in 2020, and there was a lot of job loss and uncertainty. Over 2 days, there was this direct benefits that were being transferred to every family in India, who were deserving family in India, eligible family in India, to make sure that they don't have starvation. They get money, basic sustenance money to live. Unlike many countries in the world, which had queues for food coupons outside their offices and the stores. So this is a very transformative change that has happened, and this is sometimes a benefit both of technology, leadership, and I think the leapfrogging that we have done. So three things I think came together, right? Leadership and governance mindset, the vision of that. Two, technology was ready. And three, the whole fact that we could leapfrog and we were not burdened by, suddenly obsolete computers or obsolete technology or instruments, I think helped India a lot. So it became very affordable. I mean, where in India, today, you can see somebody consume almost 45, 50 GB of data at about 200 rupees a month, right? I mean, on a smartphone, people watch whole set of movies and everything is mobile first. I mean, and you and me know it. We are not those data consumers. Our average data consumption today is about 16 GB as an average as a nation. That's one of the highest in the world, number one, actually. At the lowest data cost in the world, we are less than, 6 rupees a GB a month for data. So, so that's the story of evolution that we have had from that unaffordable PC or that unaffordable or that huge unaffordable internet. And this is not only India, this has been global, but we just compressed the time so fast. And that is aided by, as I said, the right leadership, but also right policies that the leadership has made sure that it's a trickle down, the right trickle down effect, technology available at the right time, and including the digital public infrastructure that India has built, and this whole concept of leapfrogging. What are the problems that we've seen over this 10 years, especially the last 4 or 5 years? Has been the whole battle in the world is now around 3-4 areas: misuse of data and using that data for organized operations or whatever you may call it. So this whole psych operations or international digital operations, what we saw in the UK and maybe in the US, influence operations. So that there's a big issue, and we saw platforms becoming really big without governance. That's the second issue. With no governance, all these big digital platforms from China, India banned most of the Chinese platforms in 2020. But China, the big platforms were coming primarily from China and the US, but really no governance. There was one of the biggest used platforms in India, didn't even have an India office or India head. So there were issues, there are issues, and these issues are ongoing. This whole issue about privacy and transparency, the issue of platforms and their governance, the issue of use of data, who really owns it, how can it be used, what can be done about it. And then along with it, this whole battle, the biggest battle that we have today is the fake news and misinformation battle. So along with it has come new problems. There is problems of ethics, this whole ethics of technology, trust in technology. So it's a new set of problems. We didn't have these problems 10 years ago, or we never thought about these problems. I mean, you had a PC, you opened the PC, you did your things, you went away. Today you're worried that, whether you have your location on the phone or whether some app is eating your data and sharing it with people that shouldn't be. Cyber fraud has increased a lot. Financial fraud has increased a lot using technology. So I think the earlier frauds you used to hear is somebody hacking into the Chris railway reservation system and booking those tickets in 10 minutes, which should have taken hours to book, but people hacked that, and that was a big deal. But today it's mostly financial crime. There's new sorts of challenges, and and India is doing a very good job of balancing between new policy, innovation, and this whole considerations of privacy, um, new tech, and as it's coming along. So those are my to your one question. I think I just tried to give my aspect of my journey that over the last 35 years, how I would break it. Sunil.
That's quite fascinating. So I like that, 25 years. First, you said 25 years we are on a trajectory, then the disruption happened in the last 10 years. So actually, I would be curious to know, since that has been summed properly. So what about, where are we heading? What about the future? Because one is, like you said, that in 2012, the disruption happened. Our current prime minister had it, but then everybody has adopted that strategy, and we are entering a phase of the entire. So if it's possible, where are we heading in the next 10
Well,
years?
that's a great
Same.
next
Yeah.
question, right? I mean, I'm not one of those foreseers of technology that can see what will happen 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Because anybody who's dared to forecast 10 years from now has gone wrong. Whether it's the mighty Bill Gates to TJ Watson, to anybody, right? I mean, this is an area that it's very difficult to imagine what will happen 4 or 5 years from now. But I will risk out the next 4 years. That's what I think. The next 4 or 5 years, what is that we think should happen? What are the issues that we think we should address? I think all the problems. First of all, let's see the fake news, the misinformation. How do we make sure that's number one problem globally, not only in India? Two, how do we make more trust in technology? And that, along with that, will come this whole global adoption of standards on public platforms. India is already leading that, right? I mean, we have this whole India stack, the Aadhaar stack, which is payments, UPI, payments led by UPI, identity led by Aadhaar, the paperless led by DigiLocker, all working together. We've created this platform. We've created the health stack. We are creating the e-commerce stack. We are creating the voice stack. We are creating the skills stack. So India is stackifying many things. And while we are doing that, I think there has to be a global agreement that this may be the way to go to build more trust in technology, more and more governance. The other aspect that people overlook is because of the democratic norms of India, we have more governance. I mean, how many questions have been asked about Aadhaar, and it is passed till the highest court of the law in Supreme Court. A lot of things were done, a lot of things were not implemented. Maybe 90% was done, 10% was not implemented. But finally, that's democracy all about, right? You have issues, you can take it. If I have issues with Facebook, or if I have issues with any other platform, I won't name one of them. I have very little recourse, right? I mean, if we as a country, as societies, as democracies, there will be a need for more digital public infrastructure. I think that's one thing I see India leading internally. And that is also goes with the theme of the Prime Minister: solve for India, sell to the world. So that's one area I see a lot of things happening. Two, as I already said, this whole area of how do we address this whole challenges of blockchain and fake news, misinformation. Sorry, not blockchain, fake news and misinformation. And three, when it comes to new technologies like blockchain, automated driving, right, driverless cars, AI that becomes a GPT kind of a tool, general purpose technology. How will it change society? And in that, how do we make sure that the ethics, the diversity, is codified in it? The policies are codified in that. That will be the third area. Fourth area and fifth area will be a lot of supply chain, digital supply chain control. I think you will see a lot of gated innovation, in the sense that with COVID, now I'm talking about with COVID, because I used to say beyond COVID, I don't know when beyond COVID is going to happen. So with COVID, we'll have to understand there will be a lot of disruption. So a lot of gated innovation means people will do, as if you were doing 30% ourselves and 70% was spread globally, I think you'll see that number becoming 50-50. So a lot of things will become internal. You'll start having more trust in a small supply chain ecosystem. It won't be, because again, standards are evolving, but those standards are not being adhered to by in the absence of a resilient supply chain. So there will be a lot of gated innovation. And lastly, I think wearables, devices, IoT will become even more pervasive. And India again is, for example, with drone, the digital Sai platform that we are building, things like that, you will see new economies leapfrogging, India leading the way. That, the countries will have to understand that there is no need to wait for 10 years or 20 years for this leapfrog to happen. You can do leapfrogging in 3 to 4 years, 2 to 3 years, right? So I think those are the trends I'm seeing, with India leading that, with India really setting up new standards for governments. I think one thing that definitely COVID has shown, that when revenue becomes shrinks and you have limited revenue, you need to make sure that dollar amount, that rupee amount, is spent more judiciously. And that's where technology will help a lot. It's already helping India, and it will help again other countries in the world. I think this whole mantra of startups, a unicorn a week, by the ministers and by the government will really come true. And as new technology stacks are becoming public infrastructure, each of them will produce 100 unicorns. That's a bold prediction I'm trying to make. I mean, the fintech platforms are almost producing about 100 unicorns in about 5 years. I think that compression will happen where you will get 50 unicorns a year from next year onwards.
Again, thanks for making those bold predictions. So I'd just like to end with, one thing. So one thing, like from 80s, we have always been hearing India is like a tiger. It'll do this, it'll do that. But if you see, like, as you have said, technology has been a great disruptor. And I would like to say, first, it disrupted the political system and then governance. And also technology is a level playing field. So, and last 10 years, we have done so many schemes. So as in, are you positive that probably India can, on the basis of technology, we can finally get there? We can be a superpower. We can be number one. So are you hopeful of this disruption going forward? And what would be your final outcome, do you think?
I'm to Sunil. See, there are many things. I mean, today, if you see, with our democracy, with our demography, with our digital outreach, the Ds that we have, I think India, no doubtedly, is going to leapfrog. Is leapfrogging. We need to put the right leadership, consistent leadership, the right vision into place, and that already is. The current leadership is absolutely aligned in this. This should not get disrupted. And as long as this keeps going on, I think India is already getting its rightful place in the global world order, and it will continue to do that. In fact, technology will only aid its speedier repositioning into the global world order. You've seen that right now. I mean, just a small off-the-cuff remark I can make is that I get my vaccine certificate on a WhatsApp, which is backed by a public platform, open API platform called CoWIN, which we made, which is now available to the world. So you see the offering. It's just not the vaccines, the pharmaceutical and health side. It's the technology offering that the Indian establishment is made available to the world. The front end is WhatsApp, which is an American platform. So WhatsApp integrates into a CoWIN facilitated by Indian companies and my previous organization, MyGov. And you, as a citizen, get a certificate sitting at your home and without any fear that if I lose it, what happens? Now, suddenly, this is where I think we are leaps and miles ahead of most of the countries in the world. Now, is this technology shareable? Yes, we want it to be shareable, let other countries benefit from it. That's how the global society will benefit more. But where is it coming from? Bit size, zero cost, coming from India, right? So I think that is the world. And once this happens, this becomes soft power for India. And that's where I think not only just the economic power, it's the soft power, the global power that we have, the powerhouse that we have. The fact that when the Prime Minister went to Silicon Valley in 2015 and said that not only Indians have mastered the art of leading companies in Silicon Valley and and becoming CEOs there, but we are now making sure that India also is benefiting from this expertise that we had. And the brain bank that we have globally is also benefiting the India as a society and as a country. So I think we have immense talent, immense technology, immense leadership, and all of this, when it comes together, it's like any organization. You have the people, process, and technology. You'll always excel. I think India has the right ingredients to keep excelling.
So Ania, I'd like to thank you for giving that comprehensive, look at technology, political disruption in the last 35 years and looking beyond. And I like that. I think it's a good way to end on that optimistic and positive note that you said. Even I believe that India is there and it will go even more forward. Thank you.
Sunil.